My name's Anthony Mann. I am Director of Research at the Education Employers Task Force, and I often get asked when I'm out and about to talk about what insights there are for teaching and learning and careers practice, which comes from the research I'm involved in, connected to the involved employers in education. And I think there's probably 6 key things which I'd want to stress. The first one really is, schools should do a lot. Should do a lot of it should do a lot of things. The research which we've done has shown that, that more is more. We've identified wage premiums linked to participation in employer engagement activities. And initially we found that, they didn't dip after 4 activities. Now we're finding that, you go on beyond that, and still we've not found a point where they start dipping. So do a lot. That's the first thing we'd say. Do a lot. Secondly, we'd say start young. Start young and have the kids reflect upon their experiences. And that's because the evidence which we have suggests quite strongly that the area in which the big gain comes from employer engagement activity is encouraging young people to think about their attitudes and their assumptions, the actions which they take on the back of the insights which they've had. The more chance they have to have authentic interactions with the labour market, see for themselves what that labour market is like, how it can relate to them and their journey through education, the more likely it is that they gain something of real value from that. And so we talk sometimes about throwing mud at a wall. You have to throw lots of mud for some of it to stick, and you don't know always what's going to stick. So start young, because attitudes and assumptions start young. Do girls become engineers? Do boys work in childcare? Those assumptions can influence the way that young people engage in their education, and you can get to the point where they're 16 or 18 and it's too late. So start young. Primary is better, but certainly at key stage 3. And secondly, make them think and reflect upon the experiences which they have. This is where, in a professional careers provision really works well with the employer engagement, that young people think about it beforehand, think about afterwards, about what they've learned, what they've experienced. Thirdly, schools should do lots of different things. We've surveyed teachers with lots of experience of the range of different employer engagement activities, the career talks, the mentoring, the work experience, workplace visits, and we asked them, which of these do you think, in your professional opinion, most improve young people's employability skills or attainment or ability to find work later on? And they identify different things. So in enterprise education, onto enterprise competitions, mentoring, they have different purposes. So think about giving young people different experiences and a range of different experiences. Fourthly, we need to remember that kids are not all the same. They come into their educational settings with a whole series of experiences, access to information, degrees of confidence, different networks, and it's particularly we see it in work experience. And when young people are asked, as they often are asked, to find their own work experience, we often see a process of social reproduction happening. The working class kids get working class work experience, middle class kids get access to professions. It's based upon where you're from and who you know, and more than what you really need, what's good for you. And so schools should think very carefully before they ask young people to find their own work experience. We should look for stretching work experiences very relevant to career aspirations, so young people can see for themselves whether something's for them or not, and they can gain experience which is of value to them as they make more decisions about where they want to go and how they get there. Fifthly, young people have got a very, very narrow view of the labour market. We often talk about raising aspirations, and some young people do have aspirations which are which do need to be raised, but it's much more important often to broaden their aspirations. When we survey young people, which we do a lot, we find them clustered like little kids running after a football. They're all about a third of them are only really aspiring to about 10 occupations. And so what we need to do is we need to raise their awareness of the breadth of the labour market and make sure that they're aware not just of doctors and nurses and police officers, but the range of different professions and the way that there are routes into them, so that they can make more informed decisions themselves about the journeys which they want to take through their education. And finally, the final point is that the kids don't know what they don't know. Think about this in terms of attitudes and assumptions, which can police them as they engage with opportunities to engage with employers through school or through their home life. If you follow them around a careers fair, sometimes in small groups they will, they'll make decisions about whether they're not going to engage here or they are going to engage there. They can stop themselves being exposed for information which they don't know they're going to value until they've had it. And so we're big fans of things like career carousels, kind of like speed networking or speed dating, for kids, where they have to engage with employers, they have to look them in the eye and talk to them. And in that experience, in that opportunity to see for themselves at first hand, the young people gauge whether this is authentic, it is trusted. Does it tell me something which is new and useful to me? And that's the key thing. Are the kids getting stuff which is new and useful? And on that basis, we think they are going to be optimally served by the provision within our schools.